Hi, I'm Trevor Stevenson, and welcome to Your Story Will Be Different. This is a narrative play podcast where I tell you the story that comes to be from playing a solo tabletop RPG. For this session, we're concluding our story with Winston Hutter in the game Castle of Memories by Purple Moon Games. When we last left Winston, he had started to piece together who he was as a person. He had overcome some challenges and dangers in the castle and was moving on to a new area. Let's dive right in. After some time, Winston emerged from the seemingly endless expanse of interconnected greenhouses, and he found himself at the threshold of a new challenge within the dark castle. The vast galleries stretched out before him, their corridors winding and twisting in a seemingly infinite maze. The art hanging on the walls within the galleries carried a sense of foreboding, and the echoes of his footsteps seemed to get lost in the expansive emptiness. Undeterred by the daunting prospect of the endless corridors, he steeled himself for the trials that lay ahead. As he ventured into the first gallery, the walls adorned with mysterious tapestries and ancient artworks, Winston realized the true extent of the castle's enigmatic design. Each corridor seemed to lead into another, creating a labyrinthian puzzle that tested not only his physical prowess, but also his mental fortitude. Having traversed through the series of increasingly macabre, art-adorned hallways, Winston discovered a welcome respite, another safe haven where he could rest and mend his wounds. The echoes of the unsettling artwork lingered in his mind as he took a moment to heal himself and gather his strength. The door creaked open as Winston stepped into the dimly lit room, the air heavy with a palpable sense of unease. His eyes fell upon a despondent figure, the priest, hunched over and burdened by a sorrow that seemed to hang in the air like an ominous fog. Next to him stood a cage, concealed beneath a cloth that did little to hide the ominous presence within. Intrigued, Winston approached the priest with a respectful nod. "Greetings, good priest. What brings such a sacred heart to this unsacred place?" The priest sighed deeply, his gaze fixed on the covered cage. "O weary traveler, I bear the weight of an unholy burden. Within this cage resides a creature of the undead, a menace that has plagued this sanctum for far too long." Winston's curiosity heightened. He peered beneath the cloth, revealing the sight of a burly, decaying zombie, its vacant eyes staring out into nothingness. The priest explained, "A foul creation that defies the natural order. I have sought solace in prayer and contemplation, but this creature's presence lingers, a stain on the sanctity of this place." Sympathy welled within Winston as he listened to the priest's tale of woe. Sensing an opportunity to alleviate the priest's suffering, he inquired, "Is there a way I can assist you in ridding this sacred place of the undead intruder?" The priest's eyes brightened with a glimmer of hope. "Indeed, noble traveler, if you possess the strength and courage to vanquish this abomination, I would forever be grateful. In return, I offer you a treasure, a relic of divine significance that has been safeguarded within these walls for generations." The priest's plea was accepted with a solemn nod. He readied himself for the task at hand, the weight of the impending confrontation with the undead hanging in the air. As the cloth was lifted, the zombie within stirred, its malevolent presence challenging Winston's resolve. With determination in his eyes, Winston faced the undead menace, knowing that the priest's gratitude and the promised treasure awaited him on the other side of this confrontation. The cage door swung open, and the undead creature lunged at Winston with a feral hunger. A skirmish ensued with the undead zombie, each blow resonating with the echoes of the artwork that surrounded them. Winston, armed with the stalwart axe, fought with tenacity and skill. Despite the ferocity of the zombie, Winston's determination proved superior. In a decisive strike into the monster's skull, Winston overcame the undead menace, rendering it motionless on the cold stone floor. The priest, relieved by the resolution of the threat, expressed his gratitude to Winston. In return, the priest presented him with the promised treasure, a jewel-encrusted brooch that sparkled in the dim light of the room. As Winston held the ornate brooch, the priest's thanks echoed into his ears. He continued his journey through the corridors. In a moonlit hallway, Winston continued his journey through the dark castle, the echoes of his footsteps accompanying him. Entering another room, his keen eyes caught sight of yet another treasure, a silver septum. Without hesitation, he pocketed the valuable find, knowing that such currency would ultimately help him in the future. As he pressed on, his attention was suddenly diverted when a menacing presence lurking in the shadows of the next room growled. Without warning, a massive, mangy black dog lunged at Winston, ambushing him and sending him to the ground. The unexpected assault caught Winston off guard, and he grappled with the ferocious beast. The room echoed with the snarls and growls of the black dog as Winston fought to regain control. The struggle on the stone floor intensified as Winston sought to fend off the relentless attacks of the massive canine. Despite the surprise ambush, Winston's combat skills came into play. With determined resilience, he managed to break free of the grasp of the black dog. The room became a battleground, the moonlight casting eerie shadows of the tumultuous struggle between man and beast. In a final act of defiance, Winston managed to grab his axe and swing it with precision, striking a decisive blow against the relentless attacker. The black dog, now subdued, slinked away into the shadows, its menace vanquished. His mind flashed with a memory of loss and grief that unfolded like a haunting melody. It was a time when the specter of smallpox, an insidious malady, claimed the lives of his beloved wife and daughter, leaving Winston seemingly untouched by its cruel grasp. The scene played out in the hushed whispers of a dimly lit room, where the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on tear-stained faces. His wife, once vibrant and full of life, now lay weakened and frail, her hand clasped in Winston's desperate grip. Their daughter, a reflection of their love, faced the same relentless adversary. In the agony of helplessness, Winston witnessed the toll of the disease on his family. The relentless fever, the haunting rashes, and the pitiless progression of the illness painted a grim tableau of suffering. His heart shattered as he watched the flicker of life dim in the eyes of those he held most dear. Strangely, Winston remained untouched by the smallpox that ravaged his loved ones. It was a bitter irony, a cruel twist of fate that spared him from the physical affliction but condemned him to the emotional torment of witnessing the gradual decline of his family. Days blurred into nights as Winston tended to his ailing wife and daughter, clinging to hope even as the specter of death loomed even larger. The contagion claimed them one by one, leaving Winston bereft and alone in a world that had been stripped of its warmth. In the aftermath, as the silence settled like a heavy shroud, Winston grappled with the weight of the survivor's guilt. A complex tapestry of emotions that wove together relief and devastation. The empty rooms echoed with the memories of laughter and love, now silenced by the cruel hand of a microscopic adversary. The sorrowful memory remained etched in Winston's soul, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the capricious nature of fate. As he carried the weight of this heart-wrenching experience, the echoes of his wife's laughter and his daughter's innocence lingered, forever etched in the recesses of his grieving heart. Breathing heavily, Winston rose from the ground, his clothes disheveled, and his heart still pounding with the adrenaline of the unexpected skirmish. In the aftermath of the fight with the massive dog, Winston found himself facing an even more formidable foe in the next room, the master of the demon dog. A large demon, haloed in black smoke. The air crackled with malevolence as the demon launched its attack, determined to crush the intruder in its domain. The initial exchanges proved futile. The demon's evasive maneuvers deftly avoided Winston's swing of the axe and shots from his pistol. It seemed as though the malevolent creature was impervious to conventional attacks. Undeterred, Winston summoned his ethereal family sword, knowing it was a weapon infused with magical properties. With the spectral blade in hand, he focused his will and unleashed a strike that landed on the demon. Momentarily stunned by the unexpected turn of events, the demon recoiled from the assault. Seizing his opportunity, Winston continued his barrage. The demon, still recovering from the surprise hit, faltered in its next attack, leaving an opening for Winston. Swiftly, he drew his ornate pistol and fired, the bullet finding its mark and piercing through the smoky form of the demon. The room echoed with the demise of the malevolent creature as the black smoke dissipated, leaving behind a sense of victory. Winston, having triumphed over the master of the demon dog, stood amidst the dissipating shadows, his ethereal family sword and ornate pistol serving as instruments of his resilience. A snapshot of an ordinary day that held joy faded into his mind. It was a memory painted in hues of sunlight and soil, a moment when Winston shared the simple pleasure of gardening with his daughter. The scene unfolded in a modest backyard garden, bathed in the warm glow of the sun. A patient teacher, with a love for the earth, Winston knelt beside his daughter, their hands immersed in the cool, fertile soil. Together they planted seeds of possibility, nurturing the promise of life sprouting from the ground. As weeks passed, the garden became a canvas of vibrant greens and delicate blossoms. Winston's daughter had a child's boundless enthusiasm. She tended to the plants under her father's watchful guidance. She marveled at the magic of growth, the miracle of a tiny seed transforming into a flourishing plant. One day, as the sun hung low in the sky, he and his daughter knelt beside a row of leafy greens. Amidst the foliage, a small orange treasure revealed itself, a perfectly formed carrot, the first fruits of their shared labor. The excitement in his daughter's eyes mirrored the pride in Winston's heart. With gentle hands, she carefully pulled the carrot from the earth, soil still clinging to its roots. Her laughter echoed in the garden as she cradled the modest harvest in her hands, a tangible symbol of the lessons learned and the joy discovered in the simplicity of nurturing life. In that unassuming moment, Winston witnessed the magic of connection, a bond forged in the act of planting seed and watching them bloom. A taste of that first homegrown carrot, earthy and sweet, lingered on their tongues, a flavor that transcended the ordinary and became a testament to the beauty of shared moments and the love woven into the fabric of everyday life. His hands moved almost involuntarily as he tried out a new spell that transformed the earth in the room. Ignoring the seemingly sentient eyes of the oil paintings in the long hallway within the galleries, he stumbled upon a treasure room adorned with mysterious artifacts. Among the treasures, he discovered an amulet adorned in sapphires, an exquisite find that added to the growing collection of valuables he had acquired in his perilous journey through the dark castle. Emboldened by this new acquisition, Winston proceeded to the next room. In a sudden ambush, two ghouls emerged from the shadows, their ghastly forms intent on tearing him apart. Thinking on his feet, Winston evoked one of his spells, sending one of the ghouls flying across the room. This strategic maneuver allowed him to focus his attention on the remaining adversary. The battle unfolded with a frenetic pace, the ghouls relentless in their attacks. However, the ferocity of the ghouls took its toll on Winston. In the heat of the skirmish, his armor was destroyed, and the relentless attacks caused his trusty axe to shatter. Gravely injured, Winston found himself in a critical moment, prompting him to cast a healing spell to mend his wounds. Left with only his pistol, Winston pressed on with determination. The room echoed with the reports of gunfire as he skillfully evaded the ghouls' attacks and retaliated with precise shots. The tide of the battle shifted as Winston, despite the odds, stood resolute in the face of adversity. Eventually, his bullets found their mark, and both ghouls succumbed to the storm of enchanted bullets. The room fell silent, the remnants of the ghouls dissipating into shadows. Battered and bruised, Winston surveyed the aftermath of the battle and watched as another mote entered him. In the labyrinth of Winston's memories, there emerged a pivotal moment, a turning point etched in time with the wisdom imparted by his mentor and master clockmaker. It was a conversation that transcended the ticking gears and measures of time, an exchange of words that held the weight of invaluable guidance. The scene unfolded in the hallowed space of the clockmaker's workshop, where the aroma of oiled metal and the rhythmic hum of intricate machinery formed the backdrop of their conversation. Winston, a young apprentice with dreams as vast as the cosmos, sought counsel from the seasoned hands that crafted countless timepieces. His mentor, a figure of profound skill and wisdom, paused from the meticulous task of adjusting gears to share a gaze with Winston. In that moment, the master clockmaker saw not just an apprentice, but a kindred spirit with untapped potential.
Winston,
the mentor began, his voice a measured melody amid the ticking of clocks.
In the delicate dance of gears and springs, there is a lesson for life itself. Each component plays its part, harmonizing with the others to create a symphony of precision. But remember this, my apprentice. Trust in yourself as the master conductor of your own destiny.
The words hung in the air, resonating with the weight of profound truth. Winston, in the vulnerability of his apprenticeship, absorbed the mentor's counsel like a parched desert drinking in rain. It wasn't just about the art of crafting timepieces. It was about navigating the intricate mechanisms of life with confidence and self-assurance.
As you assemble the pieces of a clock, so too must you assemble the fragments of your dreams,
the mentor continued.
Trust in your instincts, Winston. You possess a unique brilliance that, like the intricate workings of a clock, can shape the course of time.
The advice became a guiding star in Winston's journey. It fueled his creativity, emboldened his decisions, and instilled in him the confidence to navigate the complexities of both life and clocks. In the years that followed, Winston crafted his own legacy. The resonance of his mentor's words remained a constant and unwavering reminder to trust the symphony of his own capabilities. Still in the quiet aftermath of the battle, Winston realized the fragility of his arsenal and the ever-present threat that the Dark Castle posed. Armed only with his pistol and the memories of challenges overcome, he steeled himself for the trials that lay ahead. Having found a secret door in the chamber, Winston found himself stepping into a new area of the castle, the Grand Library. The air in the expansive room was thick with the scent of ancient books and knowledge. Towers of shelves loomed, filled with dusty tomes and forgotten lore. Proceeding down a long hallway within the Grand Library, Winston's eyes caught sight of a glimmering treasure, a beautiful ring adorned with opals. Delicately crafted, the opals shimmered with an unusual glow as he added the elegant piece to his growing collection of treasures. With each discovery, the Grand Library revealed its secrets, and Winston pressed on through the army of shelves. As he ventured deeper into the library, Winston's eyes fell upon a weapon that caught his attention. An immaculate crossbow. A replacement for his destroyed axe, the crossbow offered both range and precision. With a sense of satisfaction, Winston added the crossbow to his arsenal, ready to face challenges that awaited him further on in the library. After ascending a grandiose staircase, his trek led him to a large study, complete with a roaring hearth and comfortable furniture. He was not alone in this room, however, as a familiar form put down a glass of brandy and stood up from the armchair facing the fire. As his silent opponent grabbed weapons leaning against the chair, Winston found himself face to face with the most formidable adversary in the Dark Castle. a shadow version of himself, wielding a dark variant of his own kite shield and family sword. The air crackled with tension as the shadow mirrored his every move, making the battle increasingly challenging. The fight was intense and protracted, with Winston utilizing every spell in his arsenal to gain an edge over his dark doppelganger. However, the shadow knew to anticipate his every move, countering with ruthless precision. Despite Winston's best efforts, the dark version of himself proved to be a relentless and formidable opponent. Exhausted and battered, Winston ultimately fell in battle to his dark reflection. He saw his lifeblood pour out of his chest and down the obsidian twin of his family weapon. In his final moments, his thoughts turned to those memories he had recovered in this damned place. The bad, the wonderful, even the mundane. All were welcome in his last breaths. Yet in a miraculous turn of events, he found himself magically transported back to the most recent safe harbor room, alive and well. The realization dawned upon him that somehow the castle itself was tied to his own guilt and shadows. Determined to break free from this magical creation of his own inner turmoil, Winston understood that confronting his own darkness was the key to liberation. As he reached for the door handle, ready to face his shadow self once more, an epiphany washed over him. The memories he had accrued throughout this journey fell into place, revealing the true nature of the castle. In that moment of clarity, Winston understood what the castle was: a mystical manifestation of his own guilt and inner struggles. The shadows, the challenges, even the magical adversaries were reflections of his own inner demons. With this newfound realization, he steeled himself for the ultimate confrontation. As the door creaked open, Winston faced his shadow self once again. But this time there was a different perspective. It was as if the memories of his father, his mentor, his wife, and daughter guided his every step. The battle unfolded not as a struggle against an external enemy, but as a confrontation with his own darkness, armed not just with spells and weapons, but with self-awareness and resolve. Winston engaged in a battle that transcended the physical. The echoes of the clash reverberated through every corridor of the dark castle as Winston confronted his shadow self. Each strike and counterstrike, a step towards self-acceptance and liberation. The outcome of this internal struggle would determine Winston's fate and the destiny of the magical fortress that had held him captive. As Winston faced his shadowy twin in the climactic battle, he fought not only with the weapons and spells, but with a newfound self-awareness. The dance of combat unfolded with a profound understanding of his opponent and the castle's magical nature. With each strike and parry, Winston confronted the shadows within himself. The battle reached its zenith as Winston, armed not just with physical prowess, but with a deep understanding of his own darkness, emerged victorious. His shadowy twin, acknowledging defeat, saluted Winston in a silent gesture of acceptance as it morphed into a dark trace and merged with him. While this happened, a wall behind them slid to the side, revealing the long-sought exit from the labyrinthian castle. The first rays of a rising sun bathed the chamber in a warm, golden glow. The oppressive darkness that had surrounded Winston for so long began to recede, replaced by the promising light of a new day. Having confronted his inner demons and triumphed over the magical construct of his guilt, Winston stood at the threshold of liberation. The exit beckoned him, a symbolic passage from the shadows into the light. The journey through the ever-changing corridors, the battles, and self-discovery had led him to this pivotal moment. After a moment of reflection on everything he had encountered, Winston stepped through the revealed exit. The castle's enchantments faded away, and the once mysterious fortress crumbled into nothingness behind him. The external manifestation of his inner struggles dissolved with the sunrise, leaving only the echoes of the journey that had brought him to this point. Winston bathed in the warmth of the morning sun. The true world outside, free from the illusions and shadows, awaited him. The lessons learned and the memories that guided him had become the keys to his freedom. With a sense of newfound clarity and strength, Winston walked into the bright landscape beyond, leaving behind the memory of the dark castle. The echoes of his journey served as a testament to the transformative power of self-discovery and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of inner turmoil. Castle of Memories is a game that immediately drew me in because of its parallels to the Castlevania series, which I played as a kid a long time ago. And it immediately evoked images of 19th century Gothic horror. And at the same time, the Metroidvania genre itself is all about discovery. And so for me, when I was going through and playing this game, the discovery aspect became an aspect of self-discovery, which I thought was fantastic for a character to reflect on that, especially instead of just being action-packed. It gives a moment of introspection to realize who you are. And ultimately, playthrough that I was going through had a moment where the only way to proceed forward was to fight a very strong character, or opponent, I should say. And the entire run of this game with that introspection made me think, what would be the ultimate confrontation, I suppose, of this situation would be to turn and fight yourself, essentially. To embrace the inner darkness of ourselves is something that's very challenging for a lot of people, and to recognize that it's just an aspect of being human. And I thought that would be an interesting flavor to add to Castle of Memories, where not every memory is going to be a positive and bright one. It's going to be some sadness, because that's just life. And by accepting that, you can move forward and become stronger through it. Thank you again for listening to Your Story Will Be Different. If this session didn't scratch the itch and you need a little more horror in your life, I was recently a guest over on the March Madmen podcast. They're kicking off the new season to determine what is the greatest zombie film of all time, and they were gracious enough to have me on for a couple of episodes. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go check it out for yourself. Listener discretion is advised. If you want to help support the podcast, of course, go on to Apple Podcasts and leave a review and a rating. That helps a lot. And of course, if Apple Podcasts isn't your platform of choice, feel free to leave a review or a rating on your preferred platform. For our next session, I'm going to be playing Lay on Hands, which is a mechanically fascinating tabletop RPG where you play a healer wandering through the post-apocalyptic landscape. As always, I'm going to leave a link to Castle of Memories in the show notes. Feel free to check it out for yourself. I think it's one of the best solo tabletop RPGs I've played so far, and you will too. But remember, your story will be different.